Great. Well, welcome everybody. Today, the Metro Arts Commission and Metro Arts staff are joining by conference call. In a moment, we will roll call all of the members present. This meeting will be recorded and posted within 48 hours to Metro Nashville's YouTube channel. All action items voted on at today's meeting will be reconfirmed in the next in-person meeting of the committee. Public comments previously submitted will be read by a Metro Arts staff member. To make in-person comments during the meeting, I will make an announcement when public comment will open for each agenda item. At that time, Metro Arts staff will allow any attendees the opportunity to speak. If you are logged into the meeting via WebEx, please use the raise hand function to indicate you would like to make a public comment. If you're calling in, we will unmute you and ask for a verbal confirmation. Now, I encourage all participants on this call to stay muted and use the raise hand WebEx function if they would like to speak. If any commissioners are having technical difficulties with any of these functions, please let me know before we proceed. Everybody good? Okay. With that, I will call the meeting to order. We have been advised that the roll call can be taken during the vote regarding the motion to adopt the governor's executive order. Given that, please make sure you state your name and vote clearly when I call your name to confirm that you are responding for the record. And with that, I will call for a motion that the meeting constitutes essential business of this body, and meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans, considering the COVID-19 outbreak, and is permitted under Governor's Executive Order number 78.
This is Jane, so moved.
Seconded. This is Will.
Thank you, Jane. We've got a motion and a second from Will. And with that, we will take the roll. Let's see if I can find my list. Commissioner Powell?
Yes.
Commissioner Cheek?
Yes.
Commissioner Alvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Angelico?
Yes.
Commissioner Brewer?
Yes.
Commissioner Byrd? Commissioner Dow?
Yes.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Commissioner Busey?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts? Roberts? Commissioner Stringer?
Yes.
Commissioner West? Cam, I think you're on mute.
How about now? Yes.
Gotcha. And Commissioner Walker.
Yes.
And Schmidt is here as well and votes aye. Great. Thank you all. With that, the motion carries. We are going to rearrange things a little bit from the previous. Well, actually, we'll go ahead and we'll adopt the minutes now. If everyone should have received the minutes from the last meeting. Does anyone have any questions or changes from the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes.
This is Will. I'll move to approve.
This
Thank
is
you,
Hope
Will.
Stringer. I second.
Thank you, Hope. And with that, any further questions? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call the roll. Commissioner Powell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cheek?
Aye.
Commissioner Alvis?
Aye.
Commissioner Angelico?
Aye.
Commissioner Brewer?
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd? Commissioner Dow?
Aye.
Commissioner Haynes?
Aye.
Commissioner Busey?
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos?
Aye.
Commissioner Roberts? Join us. Commissioner Stringer,
Yes.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Walker,
Aye.
and Schmidt votes aye too. And with that, we approve the minutes. Next on our agenda, we are going to jump to our action items. Before we get too much further, I do want to congratulate Commissioner Cheek, who got married since our last meeting, and I think he's on maybe a little mini honeymoon. So congratulations to Will and his lovely bride Sharon. And we're happy you're joining us from wherever you are, Will.
Thank you, Commissioner Schmidt.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And with that, we'll move on to action item number 1, which are the restorative arts guidelines. Public comment will be opened at the end of the presentation. I'm now going to pass the meeting over to Janine to do the presentation.
Great, thank you, Chair Schmidt. Thank you all for being here. I'm really excited about presenting the guidelines for our upcoming fiscal year for the Restorative Arts Program. So with that, let's have the next slide. So first, I'll step back and just give everyone a brief overview of the Restorative Arts Program. As you all probably know, this is a collaboration between Metro Arts, the Metro Nashville Davidson Juvenile Court System, and the Juvenile Detention Center. Historically, those programs were held in the building that's featured here. The courts, the juvenile courts, and the detention center are both there. But this year, our programs have been, for the most part, provided virtually, and we're now moving back, slowly stepping back into some hybrid or in-person programs. So that's what that's a screenshot of just some of the of some lyric making sessions that were part of our virtual programming. So big shifts this year, but that's where we are. So and the program is what we've created with our partners is an arts integrated intervention system that focuses on court-involved youth with the goals of resiliency, youth development, and then restoring youth and families. So providing some of that wholeness. And of course, we do this in partnership with many other programs and departments. So this is a really, it's a program that's very dear to us. And it's also quite, it has a lot of moving pieces, quite complicated, lots of, different considerations. So that's the overview. So next slide, please. And to give you some updates, so we have so far completed over 140 hours of virtual programming this semester within the Juvenile Detention Center. And again, as I mentioned, we are slowly moving into in-person work. TPAC is now in their second week of their program with the gang program, and that's part of probation. And then Street Solid begins their programming in deterrence soon. They're just working out the last bits of paperwork. So yeah, we're really excited about that and where that's moving. And I'll talk more about deterrence in just a couple slides. So can I have the next slide, please? Great, so these are just a few of the dates that are in the guidelines that we're looking forward to. If everything is approved today, we hope to open the application right at the beginning of Monday morning, so end of Sunday, April 18th. Applications will then be due May 14th. We'll do our staff eligibility, so we just, check against the, the requirements and eligibility, make sure that everyone who will be scored by our community panel is eligible and within the guidelines. Then it goes to a community panel, which is made up of Metro Arts staff and also community experts in the juvenile justice field. Then programming happens throughout the next fiscal year, so July 1st of 2021 through June of and that should say 2022. So yeah, and then end of year reports will be due end of June or June 15th, 2022. All right, next slide, please. So there are some changes throughout in regards to scoring criteria, just more definitions and clarification, but there are two really notable changes to the FY22 guidelines. So the first major one is we are expanding and allowing individual providers to provide programming once again. So for those of you who have been on the commission for a few years, you might remember that a few years ago we made the very tough administrative choice in partnership with JJ Juvenile Detention Center and the Juvenile Justice Center to restrict the applicant pool to just organizations. And we did this, again, like in response to our partners' needs, in response to what the feedback we were getting, from various people within that system and the youth as well, of just, seeing some of the challenges that we really needed to make sure that our providers had their administrative systems and were able to, in place, and were able to really provide high quality programming with support systems in place, lots of checks in place. It is a very complicated program and a really sensitive population, so we really needed to do that. However, over the past few years, multiple individuals, teaching artists within these organizations have been able to hone not only their teaching skills, but their administrative skills. And we feel confident, and as does our partners in the JJC and JDC, that we, those individuals will be able to successfully manage the program delivery. And so we feel that this is an appropriate step to take and to expand out the applicant pool to those really high qualified teaching artists. And I just, at this point, really want to pause and give credit where credit is due. I think this is due in large part to the additional training and support that is provided by Nicole Robinson, our wonderful restorative arts, or previously our restorative arts coordinator, now a new title, she is our youth program specialist. So Nicole, thank you so much for all you do. Your work has shown. We have also identified that the challenges that remain in regards to administration and program execution are actually linked to those not having the systems in place and the program oversight. So that doesn't really matter if you're an individual provider or a nonprofit, you need those systems in place. So what we've done is clarified those standards in the guidelines again, really made it very clear that that is an essential part, and points will be either added or deducted depending on how well built those structures are and how clear they are, and those processes in place. And then also we'll continue to support the development of that with our organizations and providers through expanded and continued training. So in the guidelines, you'll see that we've swapped out, organizations to providers, and we'll, and in our coaching, and when we talk about the program, we'll make sure that that's clear, that now experienced individual providers will be able to apply to this program. And so, leads me to that last slide, or that last bullet, which is, although we're expanding out the pool, we have not, the integrity of the program, remains. We are committed to high standards, and this, of program delivery, and of teaching and instruction. So, we feel like that will be intact with this change, and we're really confident in this proposed change. So, can I have the next slide, please? Great. And the other big change that is happening, and this again is, we're always in dialogue with our partners, is expanding out the program to deterrence and prevention. So you'll see that there's a new category for funding, which is deterrence and prevention. So deterrence is a part of the probation department, and it's a formal category in the juvenile justice system. The definition is there. So basically with deterrence, we're preventing continued offense by increasing the perceived risk of detention or sanction. So that's just, basically to summarize, that's more attention and, to the youth, to the individual, And how we will provide that is through mentorship and arts instruction. So again, just, more support, more attention, more eyes on these youth that are in a critical place, in their development. So basically how this will work is courts will refer youth to organizations offering this type of programming. And this was a need that was identified by the JJC as an area where they needed a lot more providers in this space. So you'll see I included the bit of language that's been added to the guidelines below, and so you'll see that in the guidelines that it's providing mentorship and instruction to youth who have been either enrolled in deterrence programs through the courts or have been identified by the schools as youth who could benefit from a prevention or intervention program. All right, so next slide. And so that's it. So for public comment, I'll pass it back to Chair Schmidt, and I'm here for questions as well.
Great, thank you, Janine. We will now open the meeting to public comment. If you're logged in the meeting via WebEx and would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand function now. If you're calling into the meeting, we will unmute you shortly to ask if you would like to make a comment. Were there any comments on this motion submitted by email?
No, Chair, there were not.
Grace, are there any attendees at this meeting that would like to make a public comment?
No, Chair, there are none.
Great, thank you, Grace. That is the end of the public comment for this agenda item. We will no longer be taking comments regarding this subject. Are there any clarifying questions from commissioners? Don't see any hands raised. Last call. If not, then I'll accept a motion to approve the FY22 Restorative Arts Guidelines.
Chair Schmidt, this is Will Cheek. I move to approve.
Thank you, Will. Do I have a second?
This is Mary Elena, I second.
Thank you, Mary Elena. Any further comments or discussion on the motion to approve? Hearing none, please answer your vote when I call your name. Commissioner Powell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cheek?
Aye.
Commissioner Albus?
Aye.
Commissioner Angelico?
Aye.
Mr. Brewer?
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd? Commissioner Dow?
Aye.
Commissioner Haynes?
Aye.
Commissioner Busey?
Yes, I vote aye.
Commissioner Ramos?
Aye.
Commissioner Roberts? Commissioner Stringer?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Walker?
Aye.
And Commissioner Schmidt votes aye. And with that, the motion to approve the guidelines is approved.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda, we'll kind of do our usual, a reverse from our usual, and turn it over to Arts in Action, which is, who's handling that this week? Emily. Okay, sorry. I'm behind on my run of shows. So Emily, you're up.
Hello, everybody. Happy spring. It's great to see you all. We have lots of highlights for you, starting with some media mentions featuring our public art and our partner organizations and artists. First up, a group travel leader contacted us about Walter Hood's witness walls and the carved glass artwork in the historic Metro Courthouse for inclusion in their 2021 guide to the U.S. Civil Rights Trail. Ann Leslie is quoted in this piece, and she provided some wonderful context about the artworks and the history of the site itself. Next slide, please. Charmin Bates, who is the founder and executive director of Creative Girls Rock, wrote an op-ed in the Tennessean about one silver lining from the pandemic, and that is the creative inspiration it has sparked and how Nashville should continue to harness that creativity beyond the pandemic. You all approved Creative Girls Rock for a Thrive Award last October to create a mural at Slim and Huskies in the Buchanan Street Arts District. Students from all over virtually contributed flowers to include in the mural, and installation begins tomorrow and continues over the weekend. So we're excited to see the finished artwork. Next slide. Girls Write Nashville, which began as a Metro Arts Thrive project and is now a grantee organization, held a drive-in listening party to promote the release of their album, Sing Through the Quarantine, featuring original songs created by their students. The scene actually did 2 separate stories leading up to the album release, and one feature you can listen to the song from an incredibly talented student artist named Magdalene. Next slide, please. WPLN had a story about yet another Thrive project, and this one is from Joe Nolan's partnership with the Workers' Dignity Project. It's a billboard mural with a beautiful poem that they created together. This is part of Joe Nolan's Pikes Project, bringing art to the Pikes of Nashville that reflect those areas. Last year, he had a poetry billboard on Gallatin Pike that he co-created with teens at the Madison Community Center, and this particular billboard is on Nolansville Pike. It was just installed this Monday, and the image on the right is actually a drone shot from Monday from Brian Siskind. Next slide. Next, we want to welcome our Diversity and Arts Leadership interns for 2021. From more than 500 qualified applicants, AFTA and their partners, that's us and the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, selected 25 undergraduate interns from backgrounds traditionally underrepresented in the arts for placements in Nashville, New York, and New Jersey. So we're lucky to have 5 of those interns placed with us here in Nashville, and we'll be featuring their mentors, their host organizations, and the interns themselves and their projects across our social media and our website over the coming months. We also want to welcome our newest Metro Arts staffer, Natalie Alfaro Frazier. Natalie hails from California, and she has made Nashville home for the last 3 years. She has a BA in Global Development Studies from Seattle Pacific University and an MA in Public Administration from Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey. And she comes to us with a background in restorative justice, nonprofit management, and social change. And she is the new part-time program coordinator on our strategic funding and initiatives team. And it's an odd time to join a team right now, but we know that you will all join us in making her feel welcome. So welcome to Natalie. And finally, our last update, we wanted to invite you all to next week's Virtual Artist Roundtable next Wednesday at noon. Our graduate research fellow, Emily Habek, who is a Curb Public Scholar at Vanderbilt, she joined us last year to study our Thrive program. And in analyzing our April 2020 round of Thrive for artist relief in the wake of the tornado and the onset of the pandemic, Emily was studying data, but what really struck her were the stories of the individual artists and how they saw themselves and their roles in the face of disaster and as part of Nashville's recovery. So she's hosting a virtual roundtable discussion on these very topics. And her artists are Elishaba Israel Mrozik, Pam Marlene Taylor, and Taria Person. And this event is free and open to the public. We have a big response so far. You just register at the Eventbrite page that is linked across all of our social media. And you can also still view those artists' April 2020 Thrive projects on our website. Oh, and I wanted to add that Elishaba is also the lead artist for the Creative Girls Rock mural that I mentioned up top. So she's absolutely playing a role in Nashville's recovery and harnessing that creativity. That concludes our highlights. Back to Commissioner Schmidt, Chair Schmidt.
Great. Thank you very much, Emily. Some exciting things in there. Welcome, Natalie. We're very happy to have you join the staff. Do any commissioners have any questions about any of the updates in Arts in Action? Seeing none, I'm going to kick it over to Caroline for the Executive Director's update.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and congratulations, Will. And also wanted to say happy birthday to Janine. It's her birthday today, and just thank you for all you do. And your team is doing amazing work, as we can see how much has resulted from that today on all of the work that's being presented. So thank you. And I just wanted to quickly update you on our budget process. We look to hear from the mayor on his budget proposal by the end of, usually it's end of April, 1st in May. And then we have our council hearing has been set for May 20th, which is a Thursday at 5 p.m., which is actually, I think, the same day as our commission meeting. So we will, send out details about that. Currently, it looks like it's going to be in person at the courthouse, but we'll see if that changes over the course of the next few weeks. And typically we ask folks to come to the courthouse, but I'm guessing that's probably not as encouraged these days, but we'll definitely get you information on that if you're interested. And then if you have other questions about details on our budget, please let me know. Also wanted to thank the Tennessee Arts Commission. They were able to offer us an additional $15,000 in operating support through their NCI grant program, and we're very appreciative of those additional funds. So we're working on that contract amendment now, and that will likely go to support some of our contract staff, like Natalie and others that we've added to help us through being understaffed and through the hiring freezes and things like that. So those are my updates, and yes, open for questions if you have any.
Great. Thank you, Caroline. Does anyone have any questions for Caroline? Quiet bunch today. Well, if no one has any further questions of Caroline, I'll open up for any business at the end. Ellen, I believe you had something you wanted to share with the commission today.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Schmidt. I have been thinking about the recent spate of anti-LGBT legislation at the state level, and it has me wanting to investigate how we can best empower the trans artists in our community, especially Black, Brown, and AAPI trans artists. I know that I am new here. I'm still learning the vocab, and I don't want to step on any toes, but I think it would be prudent to consider including trans artists in our outreach or focus on specific outreach. However you guys think that organizing that would be appropriate. So I want to put that out in the universe and see what you all thought and see what would be a good next step for me as someone with a lot of energy who is willing to work on this.
Ellen, I'm hopeful that your energy is as contagious as can be, because we can all use a little bit of your positivity and energy you've brought to the commission so far. We talked a little bit earlier about this, and I've talked to Caroline as well. I do think clearly one of the important functions of Metro Arts is to make sure that we are fully inclusive and supportive of the diverse community of Nashville. And there's lots of ways to do that. So what I'd like to do, and Caroline, feel free to chime in here as well. I think the executive committee and anyone else who'd like to, we should explore ways that we can do that and make sure that the trans community is fully included in any call, any grant, in any programming we have, that we make sure that outreach is done. I think it's important to be supportive of that community. Over the last several months, there's been a lot of conversations about instead of with, which is a bad thing. So I think that's fully appropriate, and we'll support those efforts in any way we can going forward. So. Right. Anyone else have any thoughts on that? Caroline and I will kind of pull together the executive committee, and we'll figure out the best way to do that. I don't think we're going to be just exclusive to the trans community. I think there's been a lot of other communities who need to be included, and we need to do some specific outreach to those as well. So we will figure out the best way to do that. I think it's a great idea, and appreciate your efforts to bring that to all of our attention.
Yeah, Chairman Schmidt.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that I echo Ellen's comments and yours as well. It's I think everybody's pretty much aware of the legislation up on the Hill, and it seems to be going in the wrong direction, in my opinion. And if we as a commission can step up to the plate and do a few things, I think we should always have that at the forefront of our agendas. And I just want to echo Ellen's concern. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else
Chairman,
have
I don't
anything?
know.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh.
Pope.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner, Chairman.
That's okay.
I agree with Ellen and you and Sherry, of course, and I'll be glad to help any way I can.
Great. Thank you.
I believe there's a hand raised, Clay. I think,
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I can't, aside from my other misfunctions today, I can't see the hands for some reason. Clay, go ahead.
Well, Ellen, thanks for starting our meeting with the guitar, and thanks for the courage of bringing this up. I think it's absolutely fantastic. My only, thought is, how do we formalize this as a part of our work relative to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and not make this a one-off specific reaction to, kind of legislation on the Hill? I think that we're in a great position to do that as an organization. And I would like to see this as a part of more ongoing work and not just reactionary. And so, I would encourage our chair and the executive committee to really think about how do we make this durable beyond just a specific isolated incident.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Clay. And that would be my thought as well. I think it's something we should look at in all of our programming and calls to artists and those type things, which is why I thought it was kind of a good place for us to look towards. So I agree. I don't want it to be a one-off either, and to be fully inclusive of all the diverse communities we have in the city. Right. Well, thank you again, Ellen. Appreciate you bringing.
Sorry, this is Commissioner Powell. Just want to, lots of great things said today. I'm not trying to add to those, but I just, as we prepare, I think I'm on the executive committee, but as we prepare for that conversation.
You are.
Okay, I'm awesome. So I get to, lean into this a little bit more. I appreciate you bringing it to the forefront, Ellen. And I think, it would be very helpful as we move forward. And I know we have some of this data, but to understand exactly how we have, who's been participating in our programs and, who we funded. I know we've done that on a lot of other lenses. And so I just think, as we prepare for these conversations, really having an understanding of where we are so we know how to move forward and prepare and improve what we're doing. And so just for the staff, just a thought is to kind of really, as we meet, before we meet for an executive committee on this, to think about, who we funded in the past and who's been participating in our programs. So we have a good place to start is what our current reality is in this space.
Absolutely. Thank you. And with that, anyone else have anything they would need to share or want to share?
Chair, I just wanted to note really quickly that unfortunately, I think both of our commissioners on the CARE committee, Paula and Will, aren't here, and I didn't know if anybody wanted to speak to how our committee for anti-racism or equity could speak to this as well.
Yeah, I think that'll obviously be a consideration as the executive team and any of our volunteer commissioners discuss, and they'll have a part in this as well. So we haven't forgotten about them, believe me.
Thank you.
Great. And with that, if no one else has anything further, our next meeting is on May, hold on. Looking for the date.
20th.
May 20th, I'm sorry. And if everyone will kind of, obviously the governor's executive order ends at the end of this month. We do not anticipate that's probably going to be renewed, or at least that's my best intelligence at this point. So we may be in person, but if everyone will just be on the lookout for next meeting notice, the staff will let y'all know if we'll be in person or if we'll maybe do one more virtual meeting. But I look forward to hopefully seeing everybody in person next time. Please do let us know if for some reason, and I'm thinking most people on here are potentially vaccinated and on that path. But if you do have, if for some reason you can't attend for either, for whatever reason, just let us know and we'll figure out a way to hopefully have you be able to participate and listen in as well. So, but look forward to seeing everybody in person, I hope. And I hope everybody has a great rest of the week and a good weekend.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks, Jim.
This concludes our meeting.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.